Sometimes you just get stuck in these conversations and it feels like pulling teeth, right?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like trying to, I don't know, swim through mud.
Exactly. But what if I told you there's actually a way to turn those awkward silences and those, dead-end conversations into something really engaging?
Sign me up. I think we all need a little help with that sometimes.
Right. And we actually found this really cool piece called 10 Ways to Have a Better Conversation.
Okay, so 10 ways to be more interesting, more engaging. That's the mission today.
That's the deep dive. We're going to try to crack the code of good conversation.
And I think the most interesting thing about this is that it's not like you're born a great conversationalist, right?
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Yeah, it's like learning to play an instrument, but instead of music, it's connection.
Totally. It's about learning to connect with other people, build stronger relationships, become more persuasive. It's about confidence, honestly, in any social situation.
Absolutely. So the first technique in this conversation toolkit is listen more than you speak. And it might sound a little counterintuitive, right? I mean, shouldn't a good conversationalist be like the one doing most of the talking?
Yeah, it's a common misconception. But think about it. When was the last time you felt truly heard in a conversation?
Oh, that's a good point.
When someone was actually absorbing your words, not just, waiting for their turn to talk.
Yeah, like you can see their brain kind of turning over what you're saying, and they're not, just waiting to jump in.
That's active listening.
Right.
And that makes people feel valued.
It's funny. It's almost like active listening is a form of generosity, isn't it? Like you're giving someone the gift of your attention.
It is. And that generosity builds trust. People open up when they feel heard. They share their thoughts. They share their feelings.
Yeah, it's like it's not just about being polite. It's like you're creating a space for genuine connection to happen.
Absolutely. And the piece gives some really good concrete tips for being a better active listener. It's things like, nodding along, saying, tell me more, summarizing what the person just said to show that you're actually processing their words.
I love those little tiny things. I'm fascinated by this next one. It's ask open-ended questions. I'm guilty of this all the time. Like, did you have a good weekend?
Oh, yeah.
How was your day?
Conversation killer.
Exactly.
But open-ended questions, they invite the other person to think, right? To engage. It's not just a yes or no answer.
Like instead of asking if they had a good time at a party, you could ask, what was the most surprising thing they saw? Or what interesting conversations did they have?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You get a narrative, you get their unique perspective, and that's way more interesting than just confirming if something happened.
Okay, I like that. What about this one? Mirror their energy. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone's energy is totally off from yours?
Oh my gosh. All the time.
It's so awkward.
It's so uncomfortable. It's like you're trying to have a conversation, but it's like two different, channels.
Yeah, it's like you're speaking two different languages.
Exactly. So the idea is that we can subtly mirror someone's energy without being creepy and make them feel more comfortable. It's like speaking their emotional language.
Okay, I get that. But how do you mirror someone's energy without feeling fake? Like, what if someone is, super high energy and I'm just, not feeling it that day? Do I have to, pretend?
No, you don't have to pretend, but you can acknowledge their feelings.
Oh.
So if they're really excited about something, you could say, wow, you sound really passionate about this.
Oh, okay.
Or if they're more subdued, you could say, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, even if it's a tough topic.
Yeah.
It's about showing them that you're tuned into their emotional state.
Okay, so it's not matching their energy, it's acknowledging it.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and this one really gets me. Avoid interrupting, even when you're excited.
Oh, yeah.
I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I get so wrapped up in relating to somebody's story that things just come tumbling out.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But think about it from the other side. If you're telling a story and someone keeps interrupting you, it breaks your flow and it makes you feel like you're not being heard.
Totally, it's so rude.
The piece actually talks about using body language to show your enthusiasm while waiting your turn.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, nod your head, lean in, make eye contact, all those things that show you're engaged, but you're not cutting them off.
Yeah, hold your horses, you'll get your turn.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of being present, this next technique might seem a little strange.
Okay, hit me.
Use the power of silence.
Silence. I feel like that's when things get awkward.
I know, right? Like this natural instinct to fill every space with noise.
Yeah, dead air.
But actually, silence can be a really powerful tool in a conversation.
Really?
A well-placed pause can give someone time to gather their thoughts, especially if they're like sharing something kind of vulnerable or complex.
You're right. Like, give them time to really formulate what they want to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also gives your words more weight. Think about like a comedian delivering a punchline. If they just rush into the next joke, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Oh, I see. So, like, silence is the setup.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it makes things feel more natural and authentic. Real conversations, they aren't perfectly paced.
No, they're not. They're all over the place.
There's ebbs and flows, there's moments of reflection, there's bursts of energy. Silence is part of that.
This is blowing my mind. I've been doing this all wrong.
It's a new way to think about it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we've got listening, asking good questions, mirroring energy, not interrupting, and embracing those pauses. What's next on the list of conversation superpowers?
Well, this one might seem obvious, but it's really important. Show genuine interest. We can all tell when someone is just going through the motions.
Oh, yeah.
Your eyes glaze over.
Yeah, it's like they're somewhere else.
Exactly. And what's interesting about this technique is that it encourages us to find something curious in any topic, even if it's not something we're personally passionate about.
Oh, okay. So, like, even if I'm talking to someone about, I don't know, the history of paper clips.
Even then, find something that intrigues you.
Okay.
Right? And maybe it's the ingenuity of the design or how something so simple can have like a global impact.
Yeah.
It's about approaching the conversation with that sense of curiosity, that openness, even if it's not your favorite subject.
So it's like it's almost like a mental shift, right? Instead of focusing on how bored you are by the topic, you're like actively looking for something interesting.
Exactly. You're looking for the hidden gems.
The little nuggets.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, and this one's huge, especially in our world. Drop the phone, be fully present.
Oh my gosh, this is a big one.
I'm sure we've all been on both sides of this, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to have a conversation with somebody, and they're like scrolling through their phone.
So disrespectful. It's like you're only half there. And these days, it's so rare for someone to give you their full attention, to really be present. It's a gift.
I think it's more than a gift. It's like it makes you feel like what you're saying actually matters.
Absolute. You feel seen, you feel heard. It strengthens the connection.
Okay, this next one, share stories, not just facts. I need to work on this. I am such a fact-based person.
I hear you. But stories, they're so much more engaging than just a list of facts, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the difference between reading a textbook and, a really good novel.
Exactly.
Oh.
And our brains are wired for stories. We remember them better. We connect with them emotionally. They make sense of the world.
It's like if I told you it was a hot day, that's
Yeah.
a fact. But if I told you a story about how the heat melted my ice cream cone before I could even take a bite,
Ooh, now we're talking.
now you're engaged. You're like, oh no.
Exactly. You feel something.
And it makes it memorable, right?
Exactly. And it ties back to showing genuine interest. When you share a story, you're not just reciting information. You're like inviting the other person into your world.
Okay, all right. I'm starting to get this. This is good.
Good and glad.
So we've covered a lot of ground, but we're just getting started. There's still so much more to explore in this conversation toolkit.
There's a lot more to unpack here.
So much good stuff. We'll be back in a flash.
You know what's so cool about this? Like all these techniques, they all kind of work together.
They do. They really do.
We talked about listening, asking good questions, telling stories, but there's like this whole other layer to having a really good conversation. It's how we end it.
Oh, like how do you say goodbye without it being awkward?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always feel like I just mumble, all right, see ya, and then run away.
Yeah, it's funny how we like overthink all the other parts of the conversation.
Right.
But then the ending, we just kind of let it fizzle out. But it can actually leave like a lasting impression. Have you ever had a conversation that just ended abruptly
Oh, yeah.
and you felt kind of deflated?
All the time. And you're always like, did I say something wrong? Were they bored?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why the piece, it really emphasizes ending on a positive note.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving the other person feeling good.
Okay, so instead of my usual awkward, see you later, what's a better way?
Well, the key is to be like genuine and intentional. So instead of just a generic goodbye, try something a little warmer, like, this was great, let's catch up again soon.
Oh.
Or, I really enjoyed talking to you, I'd love to hear more about, and then mention something specific from the conversation.
Oh, that's good. So it shows you were listening
Exactly.
and that you actually, want to talk to them again.
Exactly. And it makes the other person feel like appreciated, respected.
I never even thought about that. It's like, I've been doing the hard part,
Right.
you know, the listening, the asking good questions.
Right.
And then I just ruin it at the end by, you know, bolting for the door.
It's like you're writing a great email, but you forget the call to action.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You put all this work in, but then you don't tell people what to do next.
Yeah. You're like, okay, conversation over. Bye. This is making me realize, like, all these techniques, they really are like tools.
They are.
You know, you got your hammer, your screwdriver.
It's a toolkit
Yeah, your conversation toolkit.
for connection.
And you can use them in different situations depending on what you're trying to, you know, accomplish.
It's like we're taking this deep dive into communication, right? And we're figuring out like the little things,
Yeah.
the things that make a difference.
You know, it's funny because I used to think being a good conversationalist was all about being like witty and charming.
Having the perfect thing to say.
Yes. But it's really not about that at all, is it?
No, it's about being present, being attentive, being genuinely interested.
It's about connection.
Exactly.
I like that. It's not a performance, it's a connection.
It's an exchange.
Yeah, it's an exchange. That's a good word. Okay, so we've talked about listening, asking open-ended questions, mirroring energy, you know, embracing the silence, being present, telling stories, ending on a good note.
We've covered a lot.
We've covered so much. But is there more? Is there like more hidden treasure in this 10 ways thing? I feel like we've struck gold with these techniques.
Right. But there's always, you know, one more gem to uncover.
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Okay. So this one, it's about like being aware of yourself in the conversation. And it says, don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Vulnerable. I always thought that was like a weakness. Like you got to be strong, you know? Put on brave face.
I know, right? Especially like at work, you don't want to, you know, let people see you sweat.
Exactly.
But the thing is, vulnerability can actually be really powerful.
How so?
Well, when you let yourself be open and authentic, it builds trust. It shows the other person that you're real.
So you're saying it's okay to not be perfect all the time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's okay to like let your guard down a little bit, show your true colors. Think about it. The people you feel closest to, your friends, your family, those relationships are built on trust and vulnerability.
Yeah, you're right. You don't have to like pretend with them.
Exactly.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, some of the most memorable conversations I've had, it's when someone has shared something, you know, really personal.
Right.
Like something that maybe made them feel a little uncomfortable to share.
It's those moments, the moments of vulnerability that create real connection.
Wow. This is making me rethink my whole approach to conversation. I've been so focused on like saying the right thing, making the right impression.
We all do it.
But maybe that's actually holding me back.
Maybe. Because when you try to be perfect, you put up a wall.
Yeah.
But when you let yourself be vulnerable, you tear that wall down.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. So we've got one more technique left.
We do.
What's the grand finale?
Well, it's fitting because it kind of brings everything together. It's practice, practice, practice.
That makes sense.
You don't become a world-class chef just by reading a cookbook.
No, you got to get in the kitchen
Exactly.
and burn a few dishes.
Right. And it's the same with conversation. It's a skill you got to practice.
So it's like, pick one of these techniques,
Yeah.
try it out
See what
to
happens.
see how people respond.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to like adjust. Figure out what works for you.
It's like turning every conversation into like a little experiment.
I like that.
Okay, so we've covered listening, asking open-ended questions, mirroring energy, using the power of silence, showing genuine interest, dropping the phone, telling stories, ending on a positive note, being vulnerable, and practicing.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. This deep dive, it's been amazing. I feel like I have like a whole new understanding of what it means to have a good conversation.
It's not just about words, right? It's about connection.
It's about connection, and the best part is like anyone can do it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're, shy or outgoing.
Right.
We all have the potential to become better conversationalists.
So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you, take these techniques, give them a try.
Experiment.
You might be surprised at the difference it makes.
And remember, be kind to yourself.
Yes.
It's a journey.
It's a process.
Have fun with it.
Because you never know, you might just spark a conversation that changes your life.
Or someone else's.
How cool is that?